With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
You've discovered your link to GoPowercat.com's Powercat Podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowercat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Mike Tuiasosopo has been coaching football nearly 30 years. It's been a really incredible career for a guy that played at Pacific Lutheran, far from major college football. And he ends up in Manhattan, Kansas, coaching for Chris Kleiman at Kansas State. It's a really interesting story how he ended up here. It was sort of by chance, but also because when he was at Arizona on Mike Stoops' staff, he was surrounded by K-Staters. And then he was at UTEP for one season, 2018, with Dana Demmel, who he was with in Tucson. And a job came open in Manhattan. And he didn't get it because of Dana Demmel. He didn't get it any other reason than Mike Tuiasosopo went and met with Chris Kleiman and Courtney Messingham at a coaching conference, and they hit it off. Kleiman needed a defensive tackles coach. And he didn't really have one on his radar. So he went outside of his orbit, which he didn't do much with that first coaching staff. He either had K-Staters or someone in his orbit. He knew everyone. For the most part, he had had some encounter with them. He hadn't encountered Coach Tuiasosopo until that day in San Antonio. But he ended up at Kansas State. And this is a guy who has coached at some really impressive programs. He caught Utah on his career path upward and Utah's path upward. Then he ended up at Arizona, as I mentioned. Then he ended up at Colorado, UCLA, USC. And after a long kind of bouncing around stint at USC, he comes to UTEP, and now he's at Kansas State. The farthest east he's been in his coaching career. And what he's done this year with Kansas State's defensive tackles is really impressive. It's really, really impressive because this was an empty cupboard in many people's minds, but Drew Wiley now is having an outstanding season after emerging as the top defensive tackle. And Chris Kleiman said after Saturday's loss to West Virginia, in which Wiley was clearly one of the better players for the Cats, that he's having an all Big 12 season. A big reason for that is the coaching of Mike Tuiasosopo. Welcome to the Powercat Sources Podcast, the podcast in which we talk to the people that we consider our sources at GoPowercat.com. And this year we are taking a tour of the entire coaching staff at Kansas State. And this week, as you guessed, it's Mike Tuiasosopo. And I grew up watching a lot of football, as most of you did, and Marcus Tuiasosopo, his nephew, the quarterback at Washington, was one of my favorite players. I loved his game. He went on to play in the NFL. And little did I know that learning the pronunciation of his name way back when would help me out later in my career. But here we are. I really enjoy Mike Tuiasosopo. He's one of those guys that just puts off this really kind nature. You know, he's a big guy. I mean, he was a defensive tackle, for heaven's sakes. He coaches defensive tackles. But he just puts off this calming kindness. And that's really his nature. And that's really, as you will learn, how he tries to coach. Almost fatherly. Almost fatherly. Really cool dude. I hope you enjoy this discussion with Mike Tuiasosopo. And now we welcome in Mike Tuiasosopo. You know what? I knew I was going to screw up your name.
You said it was good.
I hope I got it close.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Oh, yeah. I took a vacation to Hawaii last year, so maybe that's what got me over the hump there.
There you go.
The bus driver trying to teach us how to pronunciate things in Hawaiian. I'm like, I don't get it. You Polynesians have a lot of letters in your name, and it gets very confusing.
Yeah, I know it. You know, they had a couple of those quarterbacks this last weekend that played good.
Yeah. Well, first of all, sum up the season for you and your defensive tackles.
Well, it's number one, I'm really blessed to be coaching some really great kids. And to sum it up, as you know, everything is unusual, uncommon, camp was unusual. The start of the season was unusual. But, the guys have worked really hard. And really the torchbearer in all of it is kind of Drew Wiley. He's the guy that's kind of the captain of our room, if you will. And he sets the tone. And if you're a younger player in our room, in our defense, you don't need to look much further than just to look at how Drew Wiley works. A lot of fun to watch him work, and taking on a whole new role along with Eli Huggins. I think Jalen Pickle has really made some great progress. And then Robert Hance is coming onto his own. He struggled earlier in the year with his hand. He couldn't quite play with his hand the way it was. And so we've kind of had to mix match, and thank God we're making we are 4-2, and we won a game at Oklahoma with Jalen Pickle and Drew Wiley as our starting D tackles, and really there was a third and maybe a fourth. It's crazy. It's been a crazy year.
Yeah, it has. Drew Wiley's a remarkable story. I mean, he has really emerged. How different is he this year than he has been in the past?
Well, Drew Wiley has never been a starter here. And here he is in his fourth year in the program. And, he's kind of a great example for younger players. All they have to look is look at his journey here in the program. I'm sure he spent the first couple of years as a walk-on. I mean, not a walk-on, but he's a scout team player, grinding every day. Last year, I think the most snaps he had in a game was maybe 20. So he ended up, and he was our fourth D tackle heading into the season last year, and he ended up being our third guy in the rotation with Trey DeJean and Jordan Mitty, along with Joe Davies. So here's a guy who's never started, and his determination since the end of last season till now has been amazing, and I think he's in better shape. He's more explosive. He's doing a lot of cool things right now.
Really is. He played extremely well at West Virginia, and that list was short of the guys that, kind of stood out at West Virginia, but he certainly did.
Yeah, there's no question about that, but that's who he is, Drew Wiley has a high standard, and I love him, because of what he brings to the table, not only as a player, but as a great example for our younger players. And, he's a coach's dream, really, in every possible way, especially at our position. And I tell our guys all the time, I says, we're the heart and soul of our defense. If there's no D tackles, we don't have a defense. I promise you that.
Yeah, and they have held their own. They've been actually very good this year. You should be very proud of your room, because I thought this would be a weak spot on the team this year, and boy, they've taken business and taken control of it. It's been impressive.
No, they're wonderful to coach to begin with, and they're great young men. And they the thing of it is, again, back to Drew. It starts with him. He came. His leadership and his example. He just grinds every day. I mean, the way he practices, it should be a great example for all of our players. The way he works, his toughness, the work ethic, his attentiveness, and the thing of it is, I would say, and I bet Drew will tell you the same thing, that his understanding of the game has probably grown quite a bit since the end of last year, and he starts to understand things. He and I spent some time in the offseason together just watching tape of him and things that he could get corrected. And to his credit, he's taken the coaching and made them right, and made those things right. And, it's funny when I pointed him out, he goes, wow, that was really silly. That was stupid. Or, I could have done it this way, and so on and so forth. And he is having a wonderful year. And I'm hoping and praying that it'll continue. And it should, because of who he is.
Yeah. What's that say about him? I mean, in a pandemic year where he doesn't have spring football and off-season conditioning, and it's great for those receivers and running backs that can get out there and run around and, do their thing. But for a lineman of his type to come in better shape says an awful lot about how hard he worked.
Well, I tell you, someone said that character is defined as what you're doing when no one's looking. Yeah. and Drew Wiley is that he came back in shape. Well, he lost weight during the shutdown, and his body was in great shape. He was looking great and moving great. And I think it was some of it. Quite honestly, Tim, it was just him deciding that, you know what, I'm going into my senior year. I have not been a starter. I've played spot duty here and there. I think it's my turn and it's my time, and he has taken full advantage of it.
If I make a list of the seniors that I think would really deserve another year from, this bonus season, he's right near the top of the list.
Oh, gosh. I pray every day that that would be the best Christmas gift ever.
Your room isn't real deep right now. You've stayed healthy somehow for the most part.
Yeah, that's okay. Just Drew's leadership alone would be wonderful to have back so our guys can, he's just a wonderful example,
Yeah.
But you're right, we're not, and we got some guys in the program that are really developing, and, it's been a tough year, unusual year, guys transferring out, I can't do anything about that, but the right things will happen. The right people being placed. We're going to continue to move forward and develop our program. And, I've worked for a lot of people, Tim, and Coach Kleiman is as good as I've ever worked for. And, I've coached in the Pac-12 for many, many years and worked for some people that you'll instantly recognize. Mm-hmm. But I'm grateful to be here and working for Coach Kleiman for sure.
You keep creeping further and further east.
I know it. I tell you, I miss the ocean and the seafood. My wife is in heaven because she's from Minnesota, so she's and I just have a great affinity for Midwestern folks. I tell people all the time, I says, I was born in a small little village in American Samoa, smaller than the small town that you're from. So I get it.
Yeah. Going back to that Oklahoma game, you brought it up. Jalen Pickle, when I saw him and among others on the defense were starting, I'm like, oh boy, just what a place to get thrown in. And my God, he stepped up. It was really impressive.
He made a wonderful play there. The first series, he batted a ball that Elijah Cummings, Sullivan picked off, But you take that instance right there. I mean, we had lost a tough one the week before, and then to go on the road, I don't even think God was giving us a chance, to be honest. And so to put him in that situation, but even more so than that is to see the growth and the confidence that he's, the confidence to see him come out of his shell, if you will, and to see the confidence brewing in him. And I tell him every day, just the way he practices is different. Just the way he works is different. His swag, the way he plays is different. And, and I just have a lot of appreciation for Jalen Pickle right now. He's a young man. When I got here a year ago or a year and a half ago, I don't think he knew that he didn't know. I don't think he just was like, I'm here. I'm not sure what to do, where I'm going. And so it was day to day, every day. And for him to do the things that he's been able to do so far this year has done nothing. But I'm happy for him. I'm so proud of him. I'm happy for him. And the confidence that he's gained from playing and not only playing, but making plays and contributing to our team it's fun. That's a great joy as a coach to see a young man have success and to see that, wait a minute, I can achieve some of the things that, so it's been great.
Coach Kleiman, you were kind of an outlier in the fact that he didn't know you. And you interviewed for a job at a convention. At least you talked to him. And it's got to be a little bit scary when you've built a network of people to kind of step out of that network and go to a place where you haven't been, in a conference that you haven't been. And,
right.
And Coach, it's worked out pretty well.
Well, I tell you, when I got a chance to visit with Coach Kleiman and Coach Messingham in San Antonio, I knew how you meet people and you just feel like, man, this feels right. This feels different. And I remember telling my wife that after I got a chance to visit with him. And I think, Coach Kleiman also talks about that he wants to surround himself with people that, number one, their families are important to them. People of faith are things that are important to him. And then, people that are going to truly, truly care about their players and develop them and love them. I guess I've changed as a coach as the years have gone on, because we started having our children, it's like I try to coach from that view as a parent. And so when a young man comes into our program, I put my arms around him and I says, look, I know you may be scared, you're a long ways from home or whatever the case may be, but I'm here to love you and coach you. And I want you to know that if you were my son, I would want someone like me around you to take care of you, to look after you, and so on and so forth. So, and I think maybe Coach Kleiman saw that. I was not ever, at this point in my career, what's most important to me is be with good people. And that's where, and I'm so blessed to be able to be with Coach Kleiman and the staff.
Well, you have coached at some really cool places. I mean, you've done the tour of the Pac-12, USC, UCLA, Arizona, now Colorado, and now Utah before they were in there. Yeah. And you were with Urban Meyer. That was kind of cool. I mean, what was he like young Urban Meyer? What was he like?
Well, Urban was, it does not surprise me the success that Urban has had, because he's very demanding, not only of his coaches, but also his players. But, in so many ways, he's kind of like Coach Kleiman in that, there's an old saying that goes, people really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And Urban and I talked about that when I was with him, and those are things that stick out, and those are things that stick out with Coach Kleiman. But, he's, obviously a great coach, a great manager of people. Obviously, kids play for him. And so that was a wonderful year, when we were together there. And then the opportunity to go and coach in the Pac-12. And I grew up in the Pac-12, growing up in Los Angeles. So, I didn't know if I was ever going to have an opportunity to do that. And I don't know if Urban has ever forgiven me for leaving to go to the Pac-12. But no, so be it. No, it's been a great journey.
Young Urban Meyer came to Manhattan to learn offense, the Bill Snyder offense. And the reason I remember that so clearly was he had just gotten the Utah job, and Bobby Elliott, the defensive coordinator at Kansas State, was also a finalist for that job. And, he was a veteran coach, and he was like, I just lost out to this young guy up and coming. And, rest in peace, Coach Elliott, but I think Utah got it right. I think they saw the star.
It wasn't just Urban, because one of the great people I've been around in the business is Kyle Whittingham, who's now been the head coach for me. So Kyle's our defensive coordinator, and I really learned and grew a lot. And even in just my 1 year with Kyle Whittingham. And then to be able to go from there to Arizona with Mike Stoops for 7 years, those are valuable years for me personally in my growth as a coach, And those guys really, I'm forever grateful to Urban, but I'm very grateful for Kyle Whittingham and obviously Mike Stoops.
How fun was that staff at Arizona? That was a cool collection of guys.
There was a lot of K-Staters on that staff now. Eric Wolford, Eric Harper, there was Michael Smith, Dana Dimmo. We were all over there. There was a lot of K-Staters on that staff, and I learned a lot about K-State. Travis Oaks was with us. Travis Oaks was with us there early on.
Let's take a quick break right now on the Powercat Sources Podcast. We'll be back on the other side with more of Kansas State's defensive tackles coach, Mike Tuiasosopo.
The Powercat Podcast will be right back.
Is your January looking dry? Get some lotion. Get a humidifier. And better yet, get Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices across local stores to get the best price on a huge selection of drinks perfect for dry January. Every single time. Non-alcoholic wines? Have a look. Ready-made mocktails? Grab a straw and order them up. Beer without the alcohol? Yep, take your pick. You can find all of them here, in the app, in that phone that's in your hand. Could it be any simpler? Nope, not a chance. So shop for great deals on all your dry January beverages or other drinks and get them delivered to your door or blanket fort, maybe. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. And don't forget to lotion up your elbows. They're looking a little dry.
My days working and taking care of my little ones can be a lot. I checked out care.com and it was so easy for me to find local, experienced, and background check sitters. Finding our babysitter was way more affordable than I thought.
Care.com makes it super easy. Search for qualified candidates. You can view their profiles, read reviews and ratings, check their availability, send messages directly, and get the help that you need. Care.com should be every person's go-to.
We now send it back to the Powercat Podcast.
And now we continue our discussion on the Sources Podcast with Mike Tuiasosopo. Let's back up. How did you end up at Pacific Lutheran?
That's a good question. I grew up in a football family. In my family, there's whatever. We've had All-Americans. We've had first-rounders. We've had, Heisman finalists and so on and so forth. And I was kind of the black sheep of my family, to be honest with you. I just really was kind of a lost soul coming out of high school. But growing up, I knew I could play. And so I kind of had to put the pieces back together and met a friend out in Hawaii who had a brother that played at Pacific Lutheran. And anyway, long story short, I had to apply. They didn't accept me at first. But I knew I wanted to play football, partly because I never wanted to live down the fact that it was a Tuiasosopo male that could play the game and love the game. That why didn't you ever play football? So I went there, and ironically, I played for Shane and Klein's grandfather, Frosty Westring, and we did not lose many games in my career there, and had a wonderful experience. Met my wife there at PLU, and it was not Power 5, it was not FCS, it was not even Division 3. Back then we were NAIA Division 2. And we played for 3 national championships when I was there and won one and tied another. But my point is, in my eyes, it was the big time. Playing at PLU and playing for a wonderful coach like Frosty, it really taught me a lot, and it really helped me to grow. And to this day, some of those valuable lessons I learned from Frosty are lessons. Heck, I got this picture up here in the corner of my office.
That's it.
That's Frosty right up there in the corner of my office.
It's a small world,
isn't it? That's Andy Klein's grandfather, man.
That's crazy. That's a small world.
It is. It is.
When did you know you wanted to get into coaching?
Well, I was always competitive growing up. I think about that, and I appreciate the question. But I was one of these kids that would just love to follow the box scores. I wanted to know who were the leading rushers in the NFL. I'd read the newspaper, or who the leading RBI people were in back then it was just baseball. There was none of, nobody, whatever. You had to go get a paper and actually read the paper. And I just loved it. I love sports. I love being around it. But when I got to play and I got to be around Coach Westering and so on and so forth in college, I just got this bug, so competitive. And I would just, when I played, I was just trying to find little details that can help me make a play. And I just had, I just had a great passion for it. I just, I was the black sheep of my family. All my brothers and my cousins, it feel like they were all playing in the NFL, playing major college football all over the place. And I was the one that played Division III football, and I'm the only one in coaching. And everybody else is kind of done their own thing and had great success in their own lives. And I'm the one that stayed in coaching and stuck it out, So, no, but I love the game, and I really, really enjoy working with young people. And the joy of coaching to me is seeing a kid like Jalen Pickle, to see the smile in his face. His whole demeanor's changed from even a year ago. The way he plays, the way he carries himself. I could just see how the way he walks with confidence, just because, oh my God, we beat the number 3 team on the road, and he was a starting defensive tackle.
That's pretty cool.
How cool is that?
Yep. You mentioned a couple times now you were the black sheep of your family. Does your family name carry a little bit of pressure? I mean, there's a lot of tradition with that name.
No. Yeah, I mean, we got a very close family. It's just one. The Tuiasosopo is one family. And I don't know. I mean, many of the males in our family played ball, and we have a lot of obviously successful females in our family as well. No, I wouldn't say pressure. It was just more of a challenge. Like, I remember when my cousin Manu was drafted by the Seahawks, first round out of UCLA, and he had been a 3-time All-American at UCLA. It was like, in our family, it was like, okay, all right, All-American, whatever. All right, first round, whatever, not being all pro. You know what I'm saying? So those are fun times growing up and seeing the success that they were having. My brother Navy played for the Rams, and my brother Titus played at SC, and so on and so forth. But no, it was really, hey, I'm proud of you, but let's see how far that can go. Max out. Even our nephew that played quarterback at Washington was drafted by the Raiders. Just, hey, carry the name with pride and see how far it'll take you, But football has always been a vehicle for my family. I mean, most of my family wouldn't even be educated if it wasn't for football.
That's true.
So we've been blessed that way. What
has football meant for the Polynesian culture and how it's helped really integrate into the culture?
Well, it's crazy, Tim. I don't know how much you know, but I don't even know the numbers. But for a small little island and the number of Samoan players that have made it to the NFL from that little island is kind of ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, they have the highest percentage to play in the NFL if you're a little boy born in American Samoa. It is crazy. I bet if you did some research, and I've read the numbers, but I can't remember them. But it's crazy, It's just, I think some of it comes from because rugby's a big game in our culture. We love rugby, the ruggedness of it, the athleticism of it. You got to run and tackle. They don't wear any pads. You got to be a tough dude to play rugby. But it's. American Samoa is a U.S. territory, right? And so not only are football players, the numbers are high coming from that little island, but the number of enlisted people in the military are the highest in the entire country per capita from American Samoa. So it's like, okay, the United States has made American Samoa a territory, and we've taken full advantage of the opportunities that America has provided. we were all, my brothers and sisters and I were all born in American Samoa. We moved here when I was a young man, because this still is the land of opportunity. And so not just for me, but all the Polynesians have kind of followed the same course. And grateful for football. Football has been a vehicle not only for education, but for, an improved life.
Yeah.
Along with the military. Many of our families are in the military. But so anyway, no, football, I think it's just our love for contact, our love for physicalness. We're kind of nimble on our feet for big people, I guess, and so anyway,
It sounds like, so many great linemen have come off that island. It's just amazing. And is it just, how do I want to say this? Just something that is just rooted deeply in the culture that has now led to football because of the way, it's I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. It's such a cool culture.
It's interesting to me say that, and then you have Tua Tagovailoa, started, and then you have DJ Uiagalelei that started at Clemson this last weekend, and then you have Tua's brother Taulia that had a great night the other night for Maryland. My nephew Marcus Tuiasosopo was a great quarterback. So all those guys are skilled people that can throw the rock.
Crazy.
But no, I don't know how to answer that, Tim. Other than the game. We've just grown to love the game. Every part of it, the physicalness, the mental part of it. I guess and just there's no. It's I don't even know how to say it other than it's we have an aggressive culture. Mm-hmm. We love aggressiveness and the opportunity to display it or put it on, on whatever, on the field is kind of welcome, to be honest with you.
What does your Polynesian heritage, Samoan heritage mean to you?
Everything.
Yeah.
Because our culture is about family. And I always say this, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I coach is because, in football, we preach family, and I'm from a big family. And I've always known how to maneuver and find my way in my family, in a family, And so it was always a natural fit, but my culture is everything, just... It's family, it's respect, it's respect, it's humility, those are things that come to mind, and, you just, if someone asks me about my culture, those are the things that come to mind immediately. It's family, closeness of the family, loyalty to the family, it's humility, and then it's respect for the culture and respect for people. And those are things that I carry with great pride.
I don't mean to be corny, but that sounds a lot like what Kansas State football's been built on.
Yeah, it's exactly. I've been in a family. I know what it's like. I know what my family is like. I know what my culture is like. And and maybe Chris saw that, maybe he didn't. But I know this. I'm a loyal person, and I'm a respectful person, and I think about parents and their kids. And that's one of man, I'm going to take care of your kid because I'm going to care for your kid. If your kid is going away to college, I want you to know that your kid is going to be okay with me. I will look after them. That's what I wish for my son. I want my son to go somewhere or my daughter to go somewhere. I want to know that someone's going to be on the other side to take care of them.
Well, what is your sales pitch to try to get Polynesian players to come to Kansas when they have West Coast options, warm weather options, but to get them to come out here into the Big 12? What do you tell them?
Well, yeah, you sell the Big 12, you sell our success, you sell our staff, and honestly, I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to put a stop sign right in front of you unless you can answer these questions. you better stop and think, because sometimes those people out west think that Kansas is somewhere near Iraq. You know, I'm like, good God, guys. I mean, you think Manhattan, Kansas is like in the Middle East somewhere? No, right? So it's crazy how misguided some people are. Anyway, no, it's an opportunity to play high-level ball and to be to play for a great staff, to be very honest with you. I don't know. I mean, if they don't see themselves in Kansas, then the conversation is over. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to go chasing the kid who doesn't want to be here. You know, that's a waste of time. You know, he has to – and on top of that, we're kind of built on, hey, you got to love football. And you got to love to do things right, you know. And so those are first and foremost. And if you can't do that, then the conversation, I get requests all the time. Kids want to reach out to me and I ask them. There's a lot of great players, and I don't want to spin my wheels, and then it comes down to the wire, and I'm like, I don't know. It seems like a little too far, We always try to find the right people, and the right people will be here.
Yeah, you're right. Lesson to be learned from that first game of the season and how you bounce back against Oklahoma to what happened with West Virginia and your upcoming opportunity with Oklahoma State? Is it kind of a connection?
Yeah, the connection there is, look, man, regroup. Think about the things that we did good enough to win as a group, all right? And we all need to challenge ourselves to give a little more, whatever that is. Maybe it's just a little bit more to force a bad throw, a little bit more to maybe make that tackle or that play. That's kind of where we are right now. Our guys in the rigors of the season, it really becomes more and more a mental game, continuing to polish our craft and our game and get ready to play. But no, I think our guys get it. We weren't at our best and on Saturday, but I know that we need to obviously regroup and make sure that, the past is the past. We need to get on with Oklahoma State.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm hopeful that you want to stay in Manhattan for a while.
Oh, I love it here.
Yeah, including the winter. You enjoy that, huh?
You know what? Yeah, but you know what? I've been to Minnesota winters. This is okay. This is
that's true.
Trust me.
In comparison.
Yes, I have been. I've been to Minnesota winters. This is not cool.
Hey, I grew up in Kansas. I want nothing to do with the Minnesota winter. Not one thing. I don't want to live farther north than this. This is it.
No, I know. And my wife's family originates from North Dakota. And I think when I told Coach Kleiman that, he kind of chuckled. I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
I said, no, she was born in Grand Forks, I think it was. She was born in Grand. And listen, I've been in North Dakota in the summers, and you will never find me there in the winter, ever. I am never going to be that state in the winter.
Amen. Amen.
I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Man, he's a good dude, isn't he? He's a really kind guy. I just enjoy talking to him. He's not a man of many words. Honestly, I was worried about getting 30 minutes out of him, and we could have gone on for a little bit longer if he had had time. But practice is over. They're pushing the envelope this week because they have let the players go on Tuesday, so they moved the schedule up. Practice on Sunday, and Monday's practice was essentially Tuesday's practice, and the players are off on Tuesday to vote, and it's a big game on Saturday against Oklahoma State. Keep an eye on those defensive tackles. They're going to play a big role in if Kansas State can compete with Oklahoma State, because maintaining that run game, containing the quarterback, and not requiring the Kansas State defense to commit more and more sources to stop the run is so important, because Oklahoma State can beat you through the air. We'll see if K-State can bounce back against the Cowboys as they did following the loss to Arkansas State and bounce back by beating Oklahoma. It's a tall task, but every week's a different game, a different preparation. And this week, it's Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Thank you, Mike Tuiasosopo. It was a great discussion, and we'll talk to you next week on the Powercat Sources Podcast when we will have another coach. Maybe we'll have a staff member next week for the off week. We will see what the future brings. And remember, make sure you're subscribing to the Powercat Podcast at GoPowercat.com. You can hit it up on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you're listening to podcasts because it's a great source of information, and sometimes it's good to turn off that TV and just listen. I'm Fitz, and I'll talk to you soon.
Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
Matt, Ryan?
Did you know the NFL playoffs on CBS stream live on Paramount Plus?
I just want a frozen fudge bar.
Bet you didn't know Super Bowl 58 was in Vegas this year.
What about a Sunday?
Super Bowl Sunday on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus.
Seriously?
Would an NFL MVP lie?
Former MVP. Can we at least get a selfie?
Of course. I got your NFL playoffs on CBS and Super Bowl 58 streaming live on Paramount Plus.